Welcome to the Common Sense Show, and I'm back with another Common Sense conversation. This week, I have Roger Martin, co-founder and CEO of RockBox Fitness and co-founder of Beem Light Sauna. I am very, very excited about talking to him about his business ventures. As all of you know who follow this podcast, I am a over 2-decade veteran in the fitness industry and having started the process of franchising myself and being in it for a bit. I am excited to kind of dig in maybe to a little bit of that and Roger's background, what he's currently doing, because business is business, and I want to know everything I can about him and what he has going on, and pulling some lessons as well from this conversation. We're going to get into the conversation, but first, 30 seconds while the interview plays. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Common Sense Show, and I'm here, as I mentioned before the intro 34 seconds ago, with Roger Martin. And Roger, you're not just a co-founder, a leader of companies. You've led large teams before of about 500 people. You're into high-impact communication, and you have 5 companies that are in your portfolio with over $30 million of revenue. So you have a lot going on, fair to say.
Yeah, it's busy. It's every week's busy, but I love it that way. Micah, I actually I got asked last night on a call with some prospective franchisees. If I didn't have all these other things going on, how much time would I spend in a Beem studio that I own? And I said, probably all my time, because I need something to do, right? I'd lose my mind. I didn't have something to do. So yeah, but I enjoy the game of business.
Yeah, as do I, which is going to make this an interesting conversation, because what I'm interested in is, so I sold my company back in October, my fitness company, back in October 23. And, I'm starting other businesses now. And of course, as once a business guy, always a business guy. It's
Sure.
just in your blood. What I want to start with, though, is let's talk about executive management and how you are able to actually manage yourself, because with all the high level requests for your time, a high level task, important strategic thinking that needs to be done across all the businesses that you have that are perhaps similar but different in some kind of foundational structure. How do you manage yourself and organize yourself with all that, with all those things being have going on at the same time, all those balls in the air?
Yeah, great question. So I will say I'm not, this fanatical morning routine type of guy. I mean, I've read about, everybody, I get up at 4:30 a.m. and I do a cold plunge and right into a sauna and then a 3-hour workout. And then, I don't. I get up, I check my phone, I check the bank balances and my business accounts, I shower, and I go to work. That's just what I do. So I'm not one of these superhumans that, has this protocol put together. Different things work for different people, I guess. But, right. I work from a list. I have a very simple process where I have a notebook that I carry with me everywhere. When there's an action item that is owed me or that I owe somebody, I draw a little box next to an open little box, and then, have the action item or what the follow-up is going to be, and then the date that it's due by. So I'm really big on committed action. So, what is due, what specifically needs to be done, what resources do you need, and when, can you have it done by this date? And not this date, but this date by this time. And sometimes I'll even include time zone if I think the person's going to squirrel out of it. So I get very, very specific. And then when that's done, I check that box off. But it's very easy for me to look through my paper notebook and see, what still needs to be done or what hasn't been addressed. Of course, I use, Google Suite and
I'm with you, man.
Yeah, there you go. Right. I use lots of software tools. But man, there's something about paper and pen. Just I got it with me. I don't have to boot anything up, and I can look right at it. But so the real question is how do you prioritize? I mean, I think that's really the question behind the question, and that I'd love to tell you, and I strive to ensure that I'm knocking down the big dominoes. I'm looking at, okay, what do I need to do today, this week, this month, this quarter, that knocks down the big dominoes, the 2 or 3 things that will truly move the needle in the business: more revenue, more profit, a larger network of franchisees, a healthier network of franchisees, whatever it may be. What 2 or 3 things do I need to do and then filter that down to my team? This is what we're going to accomplish. And of course, that's how I start every day, every week, every quarter. And then, fires happen, things pop up that you cannot predict. The thing about business is whatever you think is going to happen is not going to happen. It'll be something different, whether good or bad, it'll be different. And, during that, Micah, I fight that. I fight that constantly of, focusing on the burning fire that's in front of you, knowing it's not nearly as important in the business as focusing on the big domino or 2 dominoes that we're trying to knock down this quarter or this year. And I don't have the answer. I'd love to give you a simple, short, concise answer like this is how I do it. This is how it's done. I think every leader that has competing priorities every day is going through that mental exercise of, okay, where does my focus really, really need to be? And the one thing I will say that I'll share with your audience is, I will continually ask my team when they say something or they say, hey, we should do this or we should do that. One is this fact or perception. So where's the data that supports us moving in that direction or moving away from a given situation? A lot of times it's perception. So let's not move with perception. Let's only move with data. Let's let data drive our decisions. And then I continually ask the question, will that move the needle? And they kind of know what I mean by move the needle. That just depends on what we're talking about. But will it actually move the needle? Show me how it will move the needle. Show me the data that will prove that will move the needle. And if it doesn't, don't do it. Don't work on it. Don't busy yourself, because I think it was Bill Gates said, that busy is the new stupid. And it really is. We keep ourselves continually busy with the wrong things that we're focused on. We're focused on all the small little details that we can check off our list that make us feel good, but it doesn't change the course or trajectory of your business. And so I fight that every day. Yeah.
So when I started, after I sold the company and I started the professional services firm, so now I'm doing business coaching and fractional executive services, and I started a couple other companies because I'm a masochist. After having coached hundreds of business hours with business owners, I was able to boil down some of the mistakes that business owners make. And so I want to just say this at the top, because as we progress in our conversation, I want to be able to call back to it, because I want people to be able to see what someone like yourself who runs successful companies does to mitigate some of these mistakes that I'm going to mention to you now. There are 6 of them.
Cool.
And these mistakes are an acronym that I call STUPID mistakes, not very clever. And STUPID stands for slow to implement, too complicated, unaware of numbers, poor planning, ignoring feedback, and distracted focus. So those are the most common 6 mistakes that I've seen business owners make constantly that stunt their business's growth. And a lot of that has to do with leadership, as you can tell. It's wrapped up with the focus and ignoring feedback. However, I wanted to just kind of say that at the beginning, because when I asked you about executive management and you talked about your list, the things that you check off versus the things that you circle and the things that you come back to, and the questions you ask your staff when it comes to implementation, what to implement, and the priorities around implementation, you've addressed some of the stupid business mistakes that people make, which is the first one is slow to implement. I think that asking a question to have a healthier implementation framework is entirely more superior than just implementing for the sake of implementing, but it's also more of a strategic implementation. And so I just want to kind of tie some of what you're saying to some of these mistakes, because I think that business owners understanding the framework of these mistakes in the way that we're going to talk about it every day is a way for them to get past it. So I like how you do this list, the whole ice bath in the morning with steak and eggs by like 8:30, and then you meditate and, I don't do yoga in the woods naked or something, is a weird frame that has made its way into the consciousness of entrepreneurs nowadays that you've heard of, that I think is just morning routines. Are they important? Yes. If you are an individual who requires morning structure like that to get going, are they important for everyone? The answer is no. Just like the answer is, should everyone be an entrepreneur? The answer is also no. So yeah, I'm with you, man. So I appreciate your list though, because I think that working off a list is actually really important, especially if you have competing priorities, because then you can prioritize, as you mentioned, how you prioritize based off of essentially first principles. What are the most important things that need to be done? For instance, a franchisee who is having unit economic issues is facing some major crisis is probably higher on the competing list, assuming that you're a franchisor that values unit economics and individual profit for your franchisees, which you obviously are, versus, for instance, an employee who's looking for a raise in the next 5 minutes, right? Yep. So I think they're both important, but I definitely think that working off of first principles and a list is actually really important.
Yeah, and Mike, I would triple down on your first principle about slow to implement. I definitely ask, tough questions of my team and data-driven questions, and that fact versus perception. But once we make a decision, go. And if we fail, that's fine. We're going to fail fast. We're going to learn it. We're going to, fix it and go forward. But I think of your entire list, and that's a great list and a great acronym. They're all incredibly important, but that first one, slow to implement, is what kills latency in a company. In driving that latency out of your company is a CEO's number one job. It's really a COO's number one job, because the bigger a company gets and the more people you have, it is inevitable, the more lag time you will have between decision and implementation. And the more you can squeeze that and compress that timeline, speed wins. Like flat out, speed wins. Business rewards speed. Now, you want to be accurate, but my experience has been business rewards speed more than it does accuracy. And then you can make it accurate after you're in the market. And I see too many people just, we've got an idea and let's meet and let's talk about it more and let's whiteboard it, and let's vet it, and let's do a survey, and let's put it out in the market and see if anybody wants to buy it. Let's try that.
Yeah. It's spoken like a true CEO and co-founder. One of the things, I don't want to bash COOs, given the fact that I'm also a fractional COO and a fractional CEO. But I understand how both executives think. And sometimes in operations, what I've just noticed over the last few months, kind of meeting and talking to operations people across the country, are that sometimes in business operations, you have this never-ending loop of what could be the most premium operational efficiency in the business. You could refine a business down to you can strip it apart, blow it up, and turn it into this lean managed, agile focused, Six Sigma, green, yellow, black belt company with all these immensely efficient operations. But sometimes when you strive for what I've learned, and this was tough for me because I love efficiency. It's great. But if you create too much efficiency in your business, you lose innovation and you lose the ability for your colleagues, for your employees, for decision makers to actually think and to be able to have not be handicapped with decision making. And I'd much rather have a person be able to own a task that they can think through, because it means that they're going to be able to think through other things when they come up. For instance, a black swan event like COVID or a supply chain disruption, than just to be a cog in a super efficient, a hyper efficient corporate wheel, operations wheel. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I never want to. I don't want to devalue efficiency, because
Right.
efficiency is how you can squeeze your margin higher and get have a better net margin. But I think what I'm hearing you say, and I agree with it, is if it's efficiency at all costs and it's only efficiency, well, then you lose what's between the words, if you will, right? It's it's the stuff between the words that can be magic, and you can find opportunities and white space and a solution for a problem that has a huge total addressable market. But if you're so hyper focused on the efficiency of one part of your business, which again, I don't want to underestimate efficiency, but it should be, and it's got to be balanced. Business isn't that much different from your personal life, and there has to be balance in it. And that balance is what brings you new opportunity. So yeah, with the sentiment of what you're saying, I agree with.
Yeah, and so that was hard for me to say, because I love efficiency. I mean, you're right. Like, efficiency it's how you have the ability to scale and have your business, like you said, operate and squeeze those margins. You have the ability to scale rapidly over time without losing identity and performance and customer facing interactions and customer service. And like, it's how you preserve your company's ability to actually be able to operate at a high level and scale at a high level at the same time. It takes a interesting like combination of those skills to be able to make it work. But you're absolutely right. So tell me about why you decided to go into to RockBox to fitness first. What is it about the wellness space that spoke to you? Was it just your enjoyment of fitness and recovery services? Was it your vision of seeing a hole in the market? And was it a pure passion and revenue play that you thought you could exploit in the market? What was your thought behind that?
Yeah, so I spent the first 25 years of my career in the pharmaceutical industry. I came out of undergrad school. Excuse me. I came out of undergrad school and went to work for Eli Lilly, which is a pharmaceutical company, as a sales rep. I was the guy in the sharp suit carrying the bag of pills and of samples to persuade the doctor that our products were superior and had fewer adverse events and had better efficacy. And then I when I got that job, I remember looking up, at the top of the pyramid, so to speak, and saying, I want that job and I'll do whatever it takes to get to that job, COO, CEO type role. I ended up moving my family 8 times in 14 years. And I mean, end zone to end zone, California to Florida, to Georgia, to Texas, to Boston, to Charlotte, chasing that dream and that goal. And I eventually ended up working for a private equity firm that owned a pharmaceutical manufacturing plant, and I was the president of that organization. And then we put that together with another company and ended up selling that to another private equity firm. And after that exit, became a chief operating officer of yet another pharmaceutical manufacturing plant up in Rhode Island. I didn't move that time; I just commuted. But I can tell you, Micah, and I've shared the story many times, man. I was in Barcelona, Spain, on a full expense account. Great multi 6-figure salary, benefits, stock options, the whole works. And I'm in Barcelona, Spain, at this trade show, and I'm looking out over the audience, or not the audience, the attendees. And, for a millisecond, I had disdain for everyone, 5,000 people in this convention center. And then I realized, wait a second, it's not them. These people are fine. These are good people. It's me. I'm miserable. I'm absolutely miserable. I've come to the end of my road in corporate America. I put in a great 25 years. I've given every company I've worked for a hell of a return on their investment. I've made a fair amount of money for myself. I've made a whole lot of money for other companies and private equity firms I work for. I want to do this for myself now. And I didn't. And I looked at there's ways you can start a pharma company just around research. You can outsource your manufacturing. And I looked at that, but really what I'm passionate about and what I believe in. So I manage teams as large as 500 and these armies of sales reps and directors and managers. And we were selling pills that treated people but never cured them, right? That's the whole pharma game. You sell stuff that treats people but never cures them, because then you have a customer for life.
Right.
And I just didn't believe in that. As I didn't want that to be my legacy. And I don't believe in that philosophy for myself. Like, I believe in wellness care. I believe in, invest in your wellness, invest in your fitness, invest in your nutrition, invest in your recovery, invest in your mental health. That's the best place to spend your money. Instead of having $1,000 car payment, how about a $400 car payment, and put the other $600 into yourself and your body that month? And so many people have that wrong. So I'm very passionate about MMA and boxing. I love combat sports. I love the purity of combat sports. And I was even training in MMA in my I'm 54 now, but I was in my mid 40s. And when I say training and competing, I would go to the gym, and we'd do full contact sparring, with no headgear, just a mouthpiece and a cup. And I get the hell beat out of me, and I go home, and my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm competing." She's like, "No, you're losing. You're losing." This, you have aged out of this, brother. And she's super supportive, but
she's like, competing doesn't look like this.
Exactly. I've seen people that compete, and their face looks better than yours does. And you got to go to work tomorrow. So right. I ended up, the long story short is, my son, who was 12, 13 at the time, wanted to take boxing lessons. He didn't want to do MMA. He didn't want to grapple. He didn't want to kick. He just wanted to learn how to box. So I said, well, okay, that's not the gym I go to. So let me find you a good boxing instructor. So I called around, found this guy locally here in Charlotte, who's a really good instructor. And he owned 2 boxing for fitness studios. They were called something different. It wasn't called RockBox. And I signed my son up for private lessons. And then after a little while, the guy's name was Steve. He transferred my son to a younger trainer that my son could bond with, because he was a teenager and going through all that stuff. And that left Steve and I on the sideline of his gym, like guys do, with our arms crossed at a 45-degree angle, talking to each other. And I asked him what his plans were, and I had just had this experience in Barcelona. And I said, I'm going to be leaving corporate America after 25 years. I'm dropping the mic, and I'm going to do my own thing. I'm really interested in the fitness space. Group fitness is a great modality. There's a growing market for it. I'm super passionate about the way you've integrated boxing and kickboxing into a group workout. I just think it needs to, if I were to do this, I'd do it slightly different, and it needs a different wrapper around it, and much better marketing. And he admitted that. But man, talk about a guy that takes action. Like, Steve was just an action. I mean, you think of an idea that morning, it's already an LLC and in business that afternoon. He's that fast. And I appreciated that. Mm-hmm. So we talked for about 2 months. I think I may have known him total 4 months before we went into business together. And we went, 50-50 partnership. He brought all his expertise. I put in the money. And we created what became RockBox Fitness. So we took his concept, rebranded it, renamed it, changed a lot of the physical layout of what a studio would look like. I built the initial flagship RockBox studio, the first one that was built as a RockBox, and not the 2 that he had that we retrofitted, and built it to spec. And then we just worked through the model and continue to hone it. And he worked on the product, the experience, and I focused on customer acquisition and how do we systematize that and institutionalize that. And then once we had that down, then we, hired a lawyer and a team that helped us franchise, which is a very expensive thing to get into. Lots of legal bills. Yeah. And it's brutal, but and the road is not paved with gold. Let me tell you, it is
not.
Legal bills.
I could talk for months about this.
Yeah.
Gone through it.
So, and then that first year we started franchising in, so I gave my notice. Of course I had a succession plan, and I worked closely with my last employer, I guess you would call it, to make sure that, it was a very smooth transition, and I wanted to see them do well and be in a good place. And, so, I had that transition, but man, I was very fortunate. I had never been unemployed a day in my life. And any job change or company change I had would be, I'd finish work on a Friday and I'd start that new job on a Monday. And, if I could go back, I would do that differently and give myself a week off between those things, but I never did. And so this was the first time I woke up on a Monday and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a salary. I don't have health insurance, dental insurance, no 401k contribution. no stock. I got nothing. Like, wow, I am really in this. And it was scary as hell. I will not lie to you. It was scary as hell. But that's a Monday. By Tuesday, still a little scary. By Wednesday, I've never looked back, and I won't. I love the game of business. I've really found that I have an appetite for this. My risk tolerance is really elevated, and it kind of has to as an entrepreneur. And I opened that first studio, and we got the systems down to where wasn't making money, and then it started to just absolutely crush month after month. We started franchising in 2018 and awarded our first license almost immediately. And then that first year we awarded 23 licenses. Second year, like another 40 or so. And then fast forward to today. We got through COVID. We got every studio. We had 15 studios open, I think, during COVID. We got every single studio through COVID. Of course, we all had to close temporarily, but they all reopened. And then today we've got, I want to say 55, 56 open in 21 states, give or take, with RockBox. So yeah, I wasn't like this super master plan I had for 15 years and brought it to fruition. I was open to opportunity. I was ready for opportunity. I identified opportunity when I met Steve, and then I worked my ass off, like you have to do. I worked harder and longer hours than and it's 7 days a week. Like it's just 7 days a week. And in fact, until May, we're recording this in July. In May of this year of 2024, I took my first vacation. My wife and I took our first vacation that was longer than maybe 3 or 4 nights. Our first 10-night, it was an 11-night vacation to Italy in 7 years. Like I literally took my last vacation that was that long was the month before I opened my RockBox, my studio. And then I didn't take another real vacation for 7 years. And I don't preach that. Like, I'm not saying everyone should do that. That's what I did. I'm not going to go that long again by any means. I realized when I was on that trip how much I needed that trip. But it is a different, this, man, and your listeners know this. It's a different vibe you feel when it's for you. When you're building your own castle, you're building your own house, so to speak. The clock, you don't look at the clock. You just don't look at the clock. You look at the results. You look at the scoreboard. That's all that matters is the scoreboard.
That's right. Let's go back to the to that first studio. So you had the conversation. You decided that you're going to move forward on this new path, and you had to get that first studio, that test studio, the unit economics dialed in and right. What were some of you talked about the refinements you made. What were some of the refinements that you made that was able to dial up the unit economics of that first location?
Yeah, great question. So we opened with the thought that we're going to go after the fitness enthusiast. And the first 45 to 6 days, that's what we focused on. And it just wasn't, our lead flow was slower. Our acquisition cost was way too high. And that's a finicky market because the fitness enthusiast, and I kind of call them the cool kids, that already have a 6-pack and already they love fitness, they're going to work out regardless. Right. They're going to bounce to they would come to RockBox, but then in 3 months or 4 months they bounce to the next thing that opened up or the next whatever it is. That's their lifestyle, and I understand it. So we full pivot into the deconditioned consumer, the weight loss consumer. So much so that we immediately changed the design guide so that our studios have always been built now without mirrors. So there's no mirrors we call it the arena where the actual workout happens. There's no mirrors in the arena so that, a deconditioned, 40-year-old woman or a deconditioned 45-year-old man or 30-year-old man can come in and not worry about somebody looking at them in the mirror or, judging them or having that watchful eye that, all these other studios and gyms we looked at, we saw all the BS of no judgment zone, no judgment here. And then the whole gym is wrapped 360 degrees in mirrors. And that's kind of incongruent. And so we just pivoted away from, hey, let's go after the fitness. Let's go after the people that are already buying a group fitness membership, a boutique fitness membership. We pivoted away from that to, no, let's go after the people that haven't worked out in 5 years. Let's go after the people that, are probably sit in the parking lot for a little bit and watch who walks in and out of RockBox first to make sure, okay, there's other people that look like me. I can go in there.
Right.
And change the marketing, change the acquisition system, the software stack we used, all that, automated a whole bunch of stuff. I've hired several consultants throughout, lots of consultants actually throughout the journey of RockBox. And really, because I want to learn too. Don't do it for me. Like, teach me how to do it so then I can hire a team internally and teach them how to do it. And then we can have that as a core competency. But yeah, that, Micah, the short, I gave you the long answer. The short answer is we pivoted from, let's go after the cool kids. We're going to get them anyway, because we have a great concept that's really, really, happening. But let's go after the deconditioned consumer, because that's 70% of our country. 70% of our country is overweight or obese. And I think that number's climbed since I found that statistic. And so that's where the gold lies. And I can tell you, when you change someone's life who was 50 pounds overweight, or a woman is 60 pounds overweight, and you help her drop 40 of those pounds, she is a raving fan and a member for life, because she failed at so many other things. She tried all the diets. She's tried the fad diets. She's hired a personal trainer, but didn't. Mm-hmm. But when we get her there with, a fitness routine that's fun, that people look for, they don't have to go to the gym. They get to go to the gym. We've really patterned this whole experience with RockBox Fitness around a live music event where, before the headlining band takes the stage, you get those butterflies, the lights go down, and that little pre-song comes up, and you just get excited. That's what we want every RockBox class to be, almost like a rock concert on the hour every hour. And so we've got a great product, and then it was acquiring the right customer type and our avatar, and then just pressing the gas pedal on that. And again, that's the risk tolerance. We wouldn't be afraid to spend, for a single location, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month on paid digital advertising, because we knew we could get that, recapture that money, monetize those ads quickly, and then the lifetime value of the customer, only added to that.
So this actually knocks out a couple of things in the 6 Micah mistake, the stupid business mistakes that people make, which is their businesses are often too complicated. They don't refine the business. I think that sometimes people outsmart themselves. I think that if I can make this so complicated and make this the most intricate operation, then it makes it a better operation. And so that takes care of the T. And the U is being unaware of numbers. It is 99% of businesses in the U.S. are small businesses. And I can tell you that every single one that I have coached have come in completely unaware of numbers. And not just unaware of numbers in I don't know what my profit and loss statement is. I mean, they have no idea what conversion rates are, how to find them, how to come up with them, how to create them, what they mean, why they matter, customer lifetime value, what their customers spend. Sometimes it has to do with the fact that they're just not tracking it through a CRM. Other times it has to do with the fact that they have a CRM. They just don't know how to aggregate all the information into data analysis and to make a decision based off of that. And so there are different reasons why people don't necessarily understand exactly what their numbers are, or they're unaware of them. But one thing I found is that all business owners, although they may not understand or their business may be too complicated, that they have resources that they don't know that they have, because they probably purchased them because some either consultant or something in the back of their head told them that they needed to, and they have the resources sitting on the shelf, but they don't deploy them, and it kind of it stunts their growth. And one of the things I appreciate about what you did, which was so smart, and I've talked to fitness business owners too, as well, and help coach them through it, which is, so many people think that they need to kick in the door, and I'm going to enter this market because I know that there's a lot of fitness enthusiasts, or take out fitness and just put in blank enthusiast into that blank. And I know that there's this many people that enjoy this. Therefore, I'm going to be the one that comes in and changes their mind about where they go and how they spend on what they spend. And the reality is the reason why they're enthusiasts is because they have a certain level of sophistication, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fitness in general tends to have people who are celebratory over one specific modality of fitness, and therefore they pursue that hardcore because it's almost like in baseball. Baseball players are really superstitious, right? Because they're like, well, if I continue to do this, I will stay in shape. I got in shape this way. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna stay here and XYZ. So what you decided to do was you actually looked at the total addressable market the correct way, in my opinion, which is okay, not who needs this, because everyone on Earth needs to be, yeah. But who would this appeal to? And I think you're right. That those beginning exercise. When I had my fitness studios, the first question I got, sometimes I got the question, not probably about like 50% of the time, do I need to get in shape before I come and see you? And I know you've heard that before.
Yeah, of course.
And you're like, well, what are you talking about?
No.
You get here because we work with you from the time that you are trying to figure out what fitness is.
We meet you where you're at. Yeah, we meet you where you're at. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so I don't understand why people make business so complicated that they kind of set themselves on fire. But they do. And I appreciate, and I had a feeling that it was what you were going to tell me when you said that, we refined the business and this is how we were able to turbocharge our first location. And you dialed in the model, it was going to be something like we refined something that was just slightly out of place, and we made a couple of tweaks. We added being aware of what our numbers are, and then we just doubled down on understanding our unit economics. I mean, I don't understand why people don't understand why it's not it's not necessarily as more complicated than that. If you want to build $1 million business, is just being aware and not overthinking, yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I mean, you said it. Like, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. So many people go by gut. This applies to interviewing as well. They interview with their gut when they should be using competency selection interviewing, which is a very structured format to interview somebody to find past successes, which are going to predict future behavior. But people, well, I like this guy, or I just got a feeling about this gal. The only place gut has a place in business, in my opinion, again, we all have our opinions. In my opinion, in my experience, is to rule something out, not to rule something in. So your gut should never be like, the numbers don't, really line up, or, really don't see it on paper, but I just have a feeling about it. Yeah. And there's success stories written about, that kind of venture where somebody took that chance. But what you don't read are the 50 million other examples where somebody used their gut and failed, because they don't write about that. But your gut, you should listen to your gut. It's a gift we were given to have, and usually from caveman days to avoid danger. So if your gut's saying I don't have a good feeling, then you should avoid it. But I would not listen to my gut saying the numbers show me one thing, but my gut tells me something different. That's just a recipe for disaster. Absolute disaster.
So that's an interesting point, because so some of my clients are in industries that have a notoriously high turnover rate, which includes the fitness industry. It's 81% measured over a 12-month period last time that I checked. And a lot of that has to do with, in my opinion, the fact that there's a couple of things going wrong, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this. Number one, the most obvious, the elephant in the room, is bringing in the wrong people. So we can kind of just skip the elephant and skip right to the rhino. So the rhino is that employers don't turn their business into a destination for employees, only for customers. And that includes, like, what are some of the things that would make working at this company better? Not just for me, but why am I changed for coming to work here? And what does this company offer to make my job easier? The easiest it can be, but not necessarily easy so that it dumbs me down. Challenging enough, mentally, so that I actually grow, but also like pushing me towards the best individual that I can be. Yeah. Where do you see the balance between push and pull with employees right now in 2024? Because
I love this, man. All right. Now we're getting warmed up. I love this because what you said is brilliant. Employers focus on making their business a destination for customers, but not employees. Well, guess what? If you don't have employees, who is going to service your customers? Your employee, Herb Keller of Kelleher of Southwest Airlines, was famous for championing his employees even over his customers because he knew how important his employees were. And I love speaking to this because too many employers, the vast majority, are so conceited and feel like, and if this were 2001, 2005, maybe you could say, you're lucky to have a job and you're lucky that I hired you. You can't say that in 2024. Like they'll say like, what? I'll go down the street and make just as much or another $2 an hour or whatever. What you have to do today as an employer, I mean, I hope your listeners take this to heart, is you need to be empathetic to that employee and very transparent and honest. And here's an example. I own a Beem light sauna studio. It's our second concept. It's a recovery studio. It has infrared sauna, red light therapy. We're introducing green light therapy, which helps with weight loss. And so, it's a recovery studio that complements our fitness offering, separate offering, complete separate business. But I own one of those brick and mortars as a franchisee, and I tell my front desk sales associates and the sauna attendants who help sterilize and refresh and reset the saunas on the hour every hour that I know this is not going to be your last job. In fact, I hope this is not going to be your last job, right? I hope you go on to do amazing things and build companies or build families or whatever it is your goal in life. But this I promise you, if you give me your best, I'm going to teach you how to persuade and influence, not manipulate, never manipulate, but how to persuade and influence that will serve you for the rest of your life. Every time you go to buy a car, a house, negotiate on anything, or somebody's trying to negotiate with you, you'll understand the inner workings of high-level persuasion influence. I'm going to help teach you how to communicate at the highest level. I'm going to teach you how to de-escalate a situation. When a customer comes in and they're mad, I will teach you the skills. And a lot of this I'm now doing through my general manager, but to teach you to, de-escalate that. Man, that can serve you in your personal relationships. I'm going to teach you how to do active listening and mirroring, not mirroring like physical mirroring, but mirroring with language to get somebody to open up more, which is wonderful when you're actively listening to your significant other. I just ask for your best while you're at work. And I promise you that when you go on to another thing, which will happen one day, that you will leave here so much better prepared for that opportunity than when you arrived here at this studio. Because if you just think like, it's a front desk job and you answer the phones, you sell memberships when they come in, all that, well, then that's what it is. That's all it is. But if you say, look, this is what we're trying to build. This is our mission. This is how we're going to help this local community. This is how we're going to help our customers. We're going to help change their life. We're literally going to change their life. And you are the person that will get them to make that right decision. And here are the skills you're going to learn that will be lifelong skills that will serve you. And when it's time for you to go to another opportunity, I will be the first person in line to shake your hand and say congratulations. And that's genuine, Micah. Like I'm not just, that's not lip service. I mean that. Yeah. Because like to think that somebody is, super grateful that they have a front desk sales associate job and that they're beholden to you in this day and age, you're going to have a sinking ship really soon. Yeah. And I don't mean to be obsequious and like, thank you for working here. And I'm so lucky that you decided to work here. I mean, I do say that because I really am grateful for my team, but it just has to be genuine. Like, man, I'm going to give you life skills. And I'm a 54-year-old guy with a lot of experience. I'm going to pour into you these life skills. I ask that you do the hard work while you're here and you give it your best. You have an amazing attitude. You treat every customer like their family. And here's our mission. And here's what we're going to do. And we're going to celebrate our wins. We're going to openly talk about our failures, and we're just going to fix those. We're not going to blame. We're just going to fix them. But we're going to celebrate though. And we're going to celebrate early and often. Yeah. And I have people, dude, that work at my studio that have a full-time job, like a day job, if you will. And they make over six figures. And they still work 2 to 3 nights a week at Beem because they love the culture. Yeah. And they're making $15, $18 an hour, and they love the culture. They don't need the money. And then I also have a lot of people that are in college that do need the money, and this is a great experience for them. And then I have other people that are just young professionals. And then I have a great GM who, she could make a career of this. As she builds a studio, she'd make a great living, and she'd go on to manage multiple studios and lots of things. So yeah, I know I just went off on a rant there, but it's just something I'm so passionate about that this is not, as you said, it's not rocket science. It doesn't have to be complex. It has to be genuine and authentic.
Right.
And when you show that to people and you do truly pour into them and you
Mhm.
say thank you, you catch them doing something right a lot more than you catch them doing something wrong, they will be loyal to you and they will be allegiant to you, and you'll have allegiance. And if they choose to go somewhere else, you'll finish impeccably. Like you just want to finish impeccably because it'll go, what goes around comes around, man. And no
Right.
matter what you believe, like that's just the law of the universe. And
Mhm.
so I always strive to finish impeccably, regardless of how the other person does. But I found if I strive to do that, they usually do as well.
Yeah, so that's a lot to break down. I mean, so I agree with all that. I do fundamentally because that's me. I had lawyers working for me. Does a lawyer need to work at a fitness studio? Like, no.
Yeah.
But again, they like the culture. I had, exercise physiologists at Mass General Hospital work for me in Boston. Does a exercise physiologist with a salary in Boston at MGH need to work for me? No, but they did. Why?
Yeah.
Because they enjoyed the atmosphere.
Yep.
I think what you communicated was that one of the things that you do in your company, in both the Sauna company and RockBox, from what I can unpack here, is you communicate. You have a high level of communication with your employees, which I have. That is one of my biggest coaching tips, which is a couple of things. So you talked about training. I always tell my coaching clients um, you should never have a staff meeting without a section in your staff meeting without training. There
Love
should
that.
be a training module in your staff meeting where you train them on something, make them a little bit better. Don't just assume, for instance, because someone is educated in this over here, that they wouldn't appreciate some form of training over here that
Yeah.
makes them a little bit more well-rounded. Another thing that I liked about what you did, or what you do with your employees, is you kind of roadmap their success, and a bit for them at the beginning, which I think is really important. And it's ultimately, if we're being really honest, the people who become franchisees are those people with six-figure salaries.
Yeah.
They're the lawyers and the people who are working for corporations that have the ability to make ends meet and make a lot of money to invest in a concept that will take them away from something that they don't quite enjoy as much as being in the studio with people who are trying to change their life. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just the nature of who buys franchises. You have to have money to save money to take that savings and put it into a franchise. It's just
Yeah.
economics 101. But being a good employer is not just, it's about that regular communication. It's about laying out, like you said, full transparency, radical transparency. In fact, laying out what is like to work there, yes, but also road mapping what it will be like to work there in 6 months, and admitting to the things that you may not necessarily be able to give them, but you can give them these things. And if you can identify what those things are, 3, 4, 5 things that they will get from you, like you mentioned, that is something that most people don't get. They just get silence. They get met with silence after they work somewhere, and that silence becomes frustrating. And I was just talking to someone the other day, and they said, I thought, which is a pretty good line. They said that when there's poor communication, negativity fills the void. And
Yeah.
I think that's what happens when people go to work at places that they don't quite enjoy, which is, I think, why they enjoy being in a hyper communicative environment, such as what you're describing about how you interact with your employees, but it also sets expectations for them. And it is amazing that the reason why a lot of my employees say that they liked working for me when I had the facilities, those specific employees, was because they always knew what to expect. There were no surprises. They knew what they had. In order for me to be happy with their performance and for them to be happy at work, we had to communicate what that looks like. And I had to tell them in advance what my expectations were to be happy, and they had to tell me in advance what are some of the things that they like. So I ran a fundamentally politically neutral company.
Yeah.
I always do.
Yep.
We just don't do it. And one of the, we don't get involved in local politics, because our space is about the people and everyone. It's not about specific, we're not going to, half of the people are going to be conservative, half of people are going to be liberal, whoever walks in, whatever is in between, whatever that mix is. So maybe 47, 47, and 4%. But the bottom line is that we just in generally made it about. We made it experiential for customers, and we made it about communication, and that really made my employees feel comfortable. And honestly talking to them and getting to know them, and actually being genuinely interested in what they have to say, and that they can contribute in some way, shape, or form, because they're going to get and stupid mistakes that business owners make is ignoring feedback. And they're the ones who get it. And without establishing this highway of communication between you and your employees, there's no way that you're going to be able to implement the things that actually matter when you go to RockBox 2.0, right? Whatever is next, whatever changes you need to make, those changes are going to come from what they have to tell you, not from what you observe about your business in passing.
Yeah, for sure. From the ground up is always the best feedback. One thing I would share too with your listeners that is something that just really resonated with me. I read this, I don't know, 6 months ago or something, but certainly not mine, but I've gladly stolen it. But if
steal away,
the little anecdote goes, a COO says to a CEO, hey, you want to spend all this money on training, our employees. Well, what if we spend all this money on them and they leave? If we spend all this money on this training and they leave, and of course the CEO answers, well, what if we don't and they stay? And that just like that hit that little story hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, oh my God, I know training is arduous. It is arduous, even if you systematize it and have software that they can do a lot of e-learning and stuff. It's still arduous. You have to have human being to human being, shoulder to shoulder on the job, teaching them. And yes, if you have some turnover, that can really wear you out. But my God, if you don't have turnover and you haven't made that investment, you're leaving so much money on the table. It's not even funny. And the people that do stay in a non-training, non-growth environment are not the people you want to stay. A players hire A players, B players hire C players. And that's how you dilute an organization really quickly, is you start settling for B players who are fine with the status quo and this is just how it is. Man, you dilute your culture overnight.
There's several converging issues when you don't train, like you mentioned, your employees. It's true. You see it all the time. It's opportunity costs that go by because the employees can't recognize them if they're not trained to recognize them. Because, for instance, they're not asking the one question, would you like fries with that? You know what I mean? Which how many billions of dollars has contributed to the McDonald's economic ecosystem because of that one question. Right. To me, it's an obvious additive to the business. So you talk about what else is in? So you said you had a platform of 5 companies. Do you have other companies in your mix too, other than the 2 wellness companies that you're currently leading?
Yeah. So I have so with RockBox Fitness, I have a smaller nutrition company. I have a third-party manufacturer that makes all of our formulas for us, and it's sports nutrition sold exclusively through RockBox. It's called Leverage Nutrition. People go to leveragenutrition.com. But those products are made specifically. We sell them. I don't sell them. There's a website, and certainly people can buy them off that. But really, it's to help the franchisees capture more revenue, because the members are going to go buy it anyway. They're going to go buy protein. They're going to go buy BCAAs. They're going to go buy a pre-workout. We would rather capture that revenue and make sure that our products. My background was pharma, so I made sure that my manufacturing partner was an FDA approved facility. It's inspected randomly every 2 years. It hasn't had a 483, which is like a demerit. It hasn't had a 483 observation in six or 8 years now. So I know what's on the label is in the bottle and what's not on the label is not in the bottle. And so we can guarantee our members have the best sports nutrition. And then we have another company called Stack It Consultants, and it helps. And you've been in fitness. A pre-launch is a big part of getting out of the gate successfully with a fitness company and a recovery company. So right now, Stack It is really focused on Beem Light Sauna. And Beem Light is 2 E's, BEEM. Beem Light Sauna is just growing rapidly. I mean, just massive growth right now. And so we started another company that is an option for franchisees if they don't want to do their own pre-launch, because, as you know, it's 4,000, 5,000 phone calls in over a 12-week period, and God knows how many texts and emails and all that to get people to sign up. They get a discount for signing up, being a founding member, but it helps with cash flow right out of the gate. Yep. So we started that company and built a sales team and refined the whole sales funnel and whatnot. We're still refining it day after day. I also have another company that is, well, of course I got that brick and mortar, so count that, but I have a company within a company. So we've created a digital marketing agency to help our franchisees really run all their traffic, do the creative, dynamic creative for headlines and the copy and the seasonal promotions. And we run all that traffic for them. We run millions of dollars of traffic every year. And we specialize in fitness because we know what to do there. And so, 95% of the clients are RockBox clients. But we've done the same. We've duplicated that same thing on the Beem side so that we have an internal digital agency that expertise at a more reasonable cost that is specialized on a particular brand or industry that helps serve our current franchisees. But of course, it can and it has grown beyond that as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense to build companies to support the ecosystem of your franchise. And, I think why that's, helpful for the company in general is because you are supporting them with institutional knowledge and already confirmed knowledge that you've building the franchise itself. And of course, the franchisee gets that like double layer of experience, like dealing with you. So let me ask you, like, what is your best marketing tip? If I were to say to you, okay, we're at a conference, I just finished giving you just finished giving your speech. And so, every person who's in line, of which there are 500 people in line to meet you, so you're a rock star at this point, right? They have 10 seconds to talk to you, and the person comes up to you and they ask you, I have 10, Roger, your speech was awesome. Thank you for giving it. I know there's a lot of people behind me, so here's my one question. What is your number one tip for a successful marketing campaign?
Make the customer the hero of their own journey, and you as a business are simply their guide to get them from where they're at across that gap, across that chasm that's causing them pain, to get them to a better place in life. But they are the hero. The copy, the creative, your messaging, your true belief system, your values are all focused on them being the hero. Too many companies try to set themselves up as the hero, set the company up as the hero. Well, you're a damsel in distress, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, and we're going to save you. We're the white knight. That is not how people want to. People, you are the main character in your life. I'm the main character in my life, right? Your story is more important to you than it is to me, as mine is to me than it is to you. And so my advice would be, make the customer the hero. Speak to the customer as the hero, and you're simply guiding them on the process of whatever product or service you offer to bridge that gap that is missing. That's why they need your product or service, and you're there to help them. Like sales equals help, and marketing, is sales. And too many people think it's about, we're the best company because we have A, B, and C, and feature advantage benefit. Well, how about, hey, let's talk about this person. Let's talk about their journey. Let's write about their journey, how they're feeling today and how they could feel. Oh, by the way, our product or service can help you get there. But I think too many times, that's I'm taking right out of Donald Miller's book, but that one helped open my eyes to just how important and customer centric your entire message has to be. I know that's longer than 10 seconds, but make the customer the hero. Just check the ego at the door. Your business will make money, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. You don't have to be the hero. You'll make money. You don't have, I'd rather be rich than king. I don't need to be king, so make the customer king.
I have something to show you.
Yeah.
Because we're twins.
Okay.
But I'm the black version of you. All right. I want you to read that.
Tilt it just a little bit because the light is.
Let's see.
There we go. Now, I can't. I am so sorry, Mike. I can't read.
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna get it closer. There it is. Go.
Never play the hero, play the guide. I love it. I love that. On your post-it note. I love that. Never play the hero, play the guide. That's perfect.
Perfect. I'm right on my computer. So
Love it.
obviously I agree with what you just said,
Yeah.
because I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
And then when you play the guide, you understand what you are. You become this. You become if you can play the guide, as you mentioned, you put yourself on the other side of the counter. People come. I think that there is a lot of information out there in 2024. There is tons of information out there. Information is not the problem today. Distillation of information is the problem. What do I okay, I have all the information, and all the information says something different. Like, everyone's contradicting each other, everyone disagrees, and everyone has written a scholarly article on both sides.
Yeah.
With citations, with
Right.
peer review on every side, which leaves me vastly confused and vacillating and oscillating in all of those. So, like, as the guide, you're right. And just you being that filter for people, playing the guide, just kind of road mapping for them what it's going to look like. And when I talk to business owners, I just say to them, I'm like, hey, frankly, you would set yourself apart from every business owner if you simply roadmap their experience and show them what a day of the life of your customer is actually like.
Yeah.
Frankly, if you can just put somebody in your place, if you can show them what that experience is like visually or through verbal communication, and you can just like put them there,
Yeah.
and they can see themselves hanging up their coat and putting their clothes over here, putting their slippers on and their robe, and then going on to the sauna.
Yep.
If you can lay out that distinct 45-minute experience with your company, whatever it is, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, I take my product, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to feel jittery for the first 5 minutes, and then after that 5 minutes is over, then you're going to feel so much better once your body relaxes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a game changer. And I don't know why more companies don't do this. And maybe it's because it's too simple.
It's simplicity scales, complexity fails, and as humans, we think the more complex it must be better, and that's just not the case. I share with so many people, a really good business, Micah, you know this, a really good business is a little bit boring because it's so predictable, right? It's predictable. Like,
it is.
If you're putting out fires every day, and if you're like, that's not a good business. You don't have a good business. Like, if it's chaos all the time, even if you're growing, you have a job, but you don't have a business.
Right.
When you have a business, I think entrepreneurs will break their own business. They will find things to break or try to tweak, and they'll screw it up because they get bored because it's making money and it's doing well. But what if I do this or do that? How about if you just leave it alone and maybe open another one or scale or do, or put more money into that one to scale it. But I'm with you 100%. Like, just keep it simple, and the consumer's happy, the employees are happy, and the owners will be happy as well. The shareholders will be happy.
Roger Martin, thank you for your time. Honestly, I'm starting. So I have a business, and I'm starting another business. Well, I don't know. I'm an entrepreneur, so I have businesses. Like, how it is. You're like, blah. And so I have another business, and the business is, I'm not ready to announce exactly what it is yet, and people are going to be surprised. And then it's in the industry that I'm not even associated with, but it is so boring, and it is. It is, but to me, it is so ingenious to get into this because it cash flows, in my opinion, is boring and is always going to be necessary. And you're always going to be in demand. And, I'm excited to do it.
Love it.
I will announce it soon enough. But Roger, how do people get in contact with you or someone that is your emissary to talk about RockBox, to talk about your wellness business? How do they if they're interested in the franchise opportunity, if they're interested in just kind of getting to know your other businesses, even like for marketing advice or some kind of consultative arrangement?
Absolutely. So I'll share three things. One, they can go to Thrive More Brands. So over all of my companies, I really have this overarching platform called Thrive More. Just one word, Thrive, or I guess all put together on .com, thrivemorebrands.com. On there will be our companies. It'll be if you want to learn more, even explore franchising, there's no obligation, but you can explore it more and just learn more about it. There's some resources on there. The link to, I have a podcast as well called Thrive More with Roger Martin, and talk mainly about business, health, and wealth. That link is on there. And then, lastly, I will share with your listeners, in this past January, I launched a book called An Insider's Guide to Business, Secrets from an Entrepreneur's Playbook. So if you go on Amazon and you look up An Insider's Guide to Business and you put my name, Roger Martin, it should come up with a blue cover. And 100% of the proceeds from the day it's gone into publishment, and hopefully hopefully it never goes out of print, but if it ever does, until that day, every red penny goes to a charity called To Right Love in Her Arms, which is a charity that helps prevent self-harm and suicide. Mental health is something, as you know, is closely tied into the world of fitness, because when people have a strong body, they usually have a strong mind, and they have the confidence to start tackling life. And so that's our national charity partner. So I donate all the proceeds from this book. But An Insider's Guide to Business is, if you like this conversation, it's literally me giving you a story of where I did something right or I totally screwed up and don't do it this way. And then, the business lesson from that. And I've made it a really easy read. I did 7 full edits on the book. It's me. It's not a ghostwriter. It's not AI. I didn't do Chat GPT. It was 46,000 words pecked out on my laptop. And really proud of it, because I know it can be a guidebook, for a map, if you will, for an entrepreneur that's looking to start, staff, and scale and grow their business.
Awesome. I will have links to all that, including a link to your Amazon.
Cool. Thank
you. To your book as well. That will direct you there. And a link to your podcast, the Thrive More with Roger Martin podcast. Thrive More. I like that. Title.
Cool. Thank you.
And health, wealth, and business. I think that's those are good topics to talk about, mainly because we all aspire to be the best of all of those things, and so that's really important.
And
Roger,
here's I just sorry to interrupt. Here's the takeaway, because you alluded to it later, but I will leave your listeners with one thing. Like you said it. So you've got a great podcast. I'm proud of mine. I just talked about a book that I know can help you. But if information solves problems, then everybody would be rich, thin, and happy, right? And we're not, because all the information doesn't mean anything. So don't buy this book or don't listen to the podcast if you're not going to put it into action. Like, take one thing and that day change how you do something, because don't expect things in your life to change if you don't change something. And so, man, I just want to double down and triple down on what you said around, information. It's everywhere. Yeah, there's too much of it. So just take one book, one podcast, and then take what they talk about and then go do it and watch how your life will change.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to the D in stupid mistakes that business owners make. Ironically, we didn't plan this, and I didn't pay him to do it. The D, the sixth of the mistakes that business owners make is distracted focus. The distracted focus is what kills you, and so you don't always have to do many things. You just have to do one thing, and one thing really well. And guess what? Oftentimes, businesses that cash flow, as Roger says, and as we talked about, are boring. The reason why they're boring is because they just do one thing. They don't do more than that. And if they do one thing really, really well, the reason why they cash flow is because of that. And I think that if more people understood that you don't have to have Tesla, where you're coming into a market that everyone has failed at, doing electric cars and building your own manufacturing plants, and then your own distribution through your retail stores and supply chains by shipping these things across the world, and doing it international business. I mean, all that sounds pretty cool when it's like actually built, but you don't have to do that to make a lot of money. You just have to do one thing, and do one thing really well that people appreciate to make money. So anyways, that was the D, and I didn't plan that. So that makes it even better. Roger, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate you all listening. He's Roger. I'm Micah, and we are out of here. And this time, I promise that I'm going to click the right outro video to end this. Bye.
Thanks for having me. Cool. All right. So is there like a check mark that comes up or something when it's uploaded?